Well, a very beautiful morning right here. Thank you so much for keeping it TV47. It is time for Morning Cafe. My name is Linda Alela. As always, it is good doing this with you every other morning as we guarantee you of a good day ahead. Karibu sana. Yes, the program is Morning Cafe, and it is important that you be part and parcel of this session right from 6 a.m. all the way to 9 a.m. Hashtag Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela at TV47KE, the Twitter handles where you can drop your comments as we proceed with the show. Tell us what is happening around you, but importantly, be part of the sessions where we get to discuss candid issues that revolve around you. So once again, like I said, it is always a pleasure as we kickstart the day and we take a look at the news stories, we take a look at what is on the newspapers, and even better, we expand some more with candid discussions picking these particular issues that surround you. Today also we'll be having a good deal on matters banking later on the last segment, that is as of 8 to 9 a.m. on the lifestyle segment. So indeed, you need to open your ears and your eyes wide because this is a session that you do not want to miss out on. But let's first of all pick these stories that have been prepared by my team. And Deputy President William Ruto has praised the formation of a mediation Senate committee to seek a consensus on the revenue sharing stalemate. DP Ruto said a win-win consensus is the indicator of great wisdom and leadership. Senate formed a 12-member committee to mediate the revenue standoff, as Joash Onsari now reports.
The Deputy President, Dr. William Ruto, through his Twitter account, has said the move taken by senators to constitute a committee to reach a win-win consensus on county allocation formula is great wisdom and leadership. Ruto further says the abuse of police and criminal justice officers to bully citizens and intimidate leaders is wrong. The committee that was formed during the Monday sitting consists of Senators Johnson Sakaja, Mohamud, Stewart Madzayo Mwachiru, Kipchumba Murkomen, Mutula Kilonzo Jr., Susan Kihika, Samson Cherargei, Moses Kajwang, Anwar Oloitiptip, Moses Wetangula, John Kinyua, and Ledama Olekina.
Both the committee and the Committee on National Security will inform us of what is happening, so that as we reach next week, there will be no cloud surrounding our debate over this very important issue. So, Mr. Speaker, I think that is all I have to say, because if I say anything else, it will be beyond what has been agreed.
Arrest and this session at all. There is no connection at all. Those are issues.
Malala was in the opposition. He was among the only few senators that voted to get you 42 votes, Mr. Speaker, to become in that chair. Senator Laleko and Senator Lalakat were among the 42 people who voted for you to be the Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you sacrificed me. You sacrificed Susan Kihika. Don't sacrifice Kenya.
The committee was formed after the House failed to agree on resolving the disputed formula that saw the 9th adjournment of the House proceedings. So far, 4 senators have submitted motions of amendments to the House. Senators Sakaja and Wetangula are the co-conveners of the team. On Tuesday met to set the ground rules for the discussions. The Senator Majority Leader Samuel Pogisio has said the sitting will resume once the committee has come up with a way forward on the county monies.
Does not call a special meeting unless we are ready, so that we don't say we are calling this meeting on Tuesday. Let us just make sure when we call a special meeting, we call it for that one meeting.
Monday's sitting hit on a hard rock after the arrest of 3 senators on different accounts of allegations. Joash Onsare, TV47, Nairobi.
And Kakamega Senator Cleopas Malala, Samburu's Steve Lelengwe and Christopher Langat of Bomet were released after their controversial arrest on Monday. Their release coming as a section of leaders condemned the government for using the police to intimidate senators opposed to the revenue sharing formula. Eli Logova with the details.
Chaos were for the better part of Tuesday morning witnessed in Mumias after residents engaged the police in running battles demanding the release of Kakamega Senator Cleopas Malala. Malala was later freed without conditions. His release came after the Director of Public Prosecutions dropped charges against him. Senator Malala has vowed to defend his stand on the controversial revenue sharing formula that has seen division in the Senate.
I will still be in that house whatever day to vote as per the wishes of the people of Kakamega. And this is my stand on this matter. One, that we cannot have a divisive nation. We cannot have a country whereby half of the country is benefiting and another half is losing. We've said this time and again, and we've insisted on this point, that we need to have a win-win formula in this conversation.
The Law Society of Kenya has accused the government of using security officers to settle political scores against those opposed to state policies. LSK President Nelson Harvey warned continued use of police officers to intimidate political leaders was a recipe for disaster ahead of the 2022 general election.
We condemn the action on the part of the police, but way forward, the Director of Public Prosecution has directed that there is no reason as to why the senator should continue being held, and I believe as a lawyer can state affirmatively the decision by the Director of Public Prosecution is informed by the fact that there can be no valid charge in the manner in which it was intended by the police here.
Deputy President William Ruto has lauded the formation of a bipartisan Senate committee to end the revenue sharing stalemate. However, DP Ruto fired shots saying the abuse of police and the criminal justice is not the reasons why millions of Kenyans voted for the Jubilee government. ODM leader Raila Odinga, through a statement to newsrooms, slammed the use of force to intimidate and create room for chaos. Raila urging the state to tone down the ethnic and regional rhetoric and diffuse the tensions that bubbled to the surface over the county revenue sharing formula. Bomet Senator Christopher Langat and his Samburu counterpart Steve Lelengwe were also released after recording statements with the police. The three senators were arrested Monday, a day when the Senate was to make a key decision on the county sharing formula. Eli Logova, TV47, Nairobi.
Thanks, Eli, for that. Now, it is too early to determine whether or not the COVID-19 curve is going down. This is according to the Ministry of Health, after claims that the curve is going down due to a recent drop in infections witnessed in the past few days. This is as the number of COVID-19 cases in the country rises to 30,636 after 267 more people tested positive of the virus. Let's take a look.
In the past few days, the country has continuously witnessed a drop in the number of COVID-19 infections reported in a period of 24 hours, from numbers as high as over 600 cases in a day to less than 300 cases in a day. A trend that has raised concerns across the country, with conclusive sentiments that the Kenyan curve is finally going down. However, the Ministry of Health warns that it might just be too early to determine whether or not the curve is dropping.
It is too early for us to be able to make any determination whether this is a trend, at least for the curve coming down.
According to the Health CS, Dr. Rashid Aman, there are specific indicators used by the Ministry of Health to make such a determination over a long period of time.
The strongest indicator really is people who get hospitalized because of COVID-19 and people who actually die from COVID-19.
The ministry further says issues with testing kits, sample size, targeted mass testings and contact tracing could play a huge role in the dropping numbers.
When we have enough testing kits and supplies, we are able to ramp up our testing. And you know, testing, number of cases that you unearth is also a factor of the number of samples, the the size of the samples that you collect.
This is as the number of COVID-19 cases in the country rose to 30,636 cases after 271 more people tested positive for the virus in the last 24 hours. 208 patients have recovered from the disease after receiving treatment from various hospitals across the country, as 5 more people succumbed to the virus. For TV47, I'm Zainab Mohammed.
Away from that, approximately 155 people living in the Dadaab refugee complex have contracted the COVID-19 disease since the first case was reported in May. This is according to Garissa Governor Ali Korane, who said up to 80% of the 194 cases in Garissa County are from Dadaab. This is the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, donated personal protective equipment, PPEs, for medical staff working in the Dadaab refugee complex.
3 months since the COVID-19 disease penetrated the porous borders of the Dadaab refugee complex, approximately 155 people have tested positive for COVID-19 there. This is according to Garissa Governor Ali Korane, who revealed that up to 80% of the 194 confirmed COVID-19 cases in the northeastern county are from Dadaab.
In terms of the infections in the county, 80% of the infections in Garissa County are from the refugee camps, the Dadaab complex.
However, Korane has insisted that the county government is up to speed in its preparedness to deal with COVID-19 in Garissa.
Currently, we have 294 isolation beds, including those which are in the refugee camps. We have 108 beds facility which is getting completed this week, and we are going to start another facility for 50 more beds, which will take 3 weeks.
While echoing the governor's sentiments, Health CAS Dr. Rashid Aman has said the condition in Dadaab is under control.
We have systems of monitoring, we have the testing systems, networks that we have put in place, and so we do follow up.
This as the Regional Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, donated personal protective equipment, otherwise known as PPEs, to frontline caregivers working in Dadaab.
Our regional response is specifically based upon internally displaced people, refugees, as well as the returnees and the urban vulnerable population and pastoralists as well. So we are working very closely with member states, all 7 member states.
David Muthoka, TV47.
Now, Jamia Mosque reopened its doors yesterday after closing for 5 months due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Muslim faithfuls observed their noon prayers under the strict conformity of the Interfaith Council guidelines, as Muhammad Ali reports.
It has been 5 months of waiting for the Muslim faithful who pray at Jamia Mosque, Nairobi. The mosque opened its doors earlier today, following the revised Interfaith Council guidelines that increased the number of worshippers from the earlier 100 limit per session. The management of Jamia Mosque pointed out some of the directives that include the wearing of masks and coming with ablution done, as the ablution and toilet areas remain closed. Worshippers were also forced to carry their prayer mats, as the initial mats were removed and the floor marked well, in order to observe the 1.5 meters social distancing rule. It was, however, a harvesting day for business people who sell mats near the mosque. Those who did not have their prayer mats were forced to buy one from the traders. The mosque opens 15 minutes before prayers and closes its doors 15 minutes after prayers. Those who came late and did not get an opportunity to pray inside the mosque were forced to observe the Dhuhr prayers outside the mosque. Jamia Mosque has the capacity to host 10,000 worshippers on a normal day, but due to COVID-19, the numbers have been reduced to 1,350, as directed by the Interfaith Council. Muhammad Ali, TV47, Nairobi.
And from that story, we now take a short break. We'll be right back with the newspapers. All right, and we are back with the newspaper. Sky V. Ken, who's an author, joins me this morning and also a public speaker to expound more on the newspaper and the stories that have been captured. As always, we have the People Daily and we have the Standard and the Daily Nation newspapers. So we'll be going through the key stories that have been captured, especially on the front page, and delve a little bit deep as we, of course, leave it for you to grab a paper or copies of what it is that you'd want to expound more on or understand more. So starting with the Standard newspaper, and the front page, the biggest story is Stop the Madness, Raila and Ruto. This is captured on the front page as the biggest story of the Standard newspaper, and ODM leader and deputy president condemn senators' arrests, and they have warned on the attacks and cloning back the democratic gains, urges the strain. And this is in regards to what happened on Monday after 3 senators were arrested, stopping them from attending the key session that was to address the stalemate that is there in regards to the issue of sharing of revenue across different parts of the counties. And this story has been captured extensively on page 6, 7, and 8 as to the story that I had done right on, or taken you through, prepared by my team, is that the deputy president commended or said that it was a good move to have this committee that will address this issue, hoping that we're going to get answers to them. And Sky V, this is something that we've been treated to for like a month or two now. And it's not just a month or two, because reality is that this conversation has been ongoing, and this is something that is enshrined in the Constitution. This is a conversation that, the senators would have had prior, so that we do not find ourselves where we are today. What do you make of the events? And again, this condemnation that comes from these key leaders, that it is unfortunate to have senators arrested at this time and age just because they are against what is being proposed by, say, the government.
I think we are living at a different age right now. I don't think what happened to the senators is really the right thing to do. But when I look at what has happened with the deputy president and also Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, I think it's also a show of leadership when they're able to come together and be able to condemn what is wrong. Because no matter which senator or from which side of the political side they are, what happened to them was really unfair. So I really appreciate what these two political leaders are able to see from their end, because I think in the past what we have seen is people trying to protect their own people, and when others are held in such conditions, they're in support of that. So I really think that Raila Amolo Odinga and the deputy president really did good on this.
All right. Well, and we wait to see. I mean, we are all eagerly waiting to see what it is that the 12-member team will present for us. But like we have said, there's a story that has extensively been captured on those 3 pages, in a huge way, painting a picture of what has played out, what has culminated, and what is likely to take shape. So how COVID bailout favored the rich, and wondering why the billions released by Treasury to insulate Kenyans against coronavirus didn't reach you, then you must be among the majority poor, says KNBS data, captured on page 2 of the Standard newspaper. Let's just take a look at that. And it's pretty much unfortunate that we are talking about COVID-19, Sky V. Ken, and even worse, we're talking about funds that have been channeled towards addressing this. But reality is that these funds have not been used, or have not been put to the use that they are supposed to be used for. So what do you make of this? And talks of corruption have been rife on this one, even before we get to deal with the virus.
I think, just as you've mentioned, the biggest disease that hit us as a nation is corruption. Because I think I was seeing the review of how much we have received as a country. It should be so many billions of money. But when you look at what the common Mwananchi is receiving right now, it's basically Nothing. There are people who have lost jobs. There are people who are sleeping hungry. There are people who have nothing going on around their lives. But we have made COVID-19 millionaires. We have people who are living now a better life, courtesy of these funds from the donors of coronavirus to help us curb the coronavirus situation. So I don't think it is right. But I don't know, I pray that one day we will get leadership that is able to curb this corruption. We are able to get leaders who put the interest of Mwananchi first before themselves, because as long as we keep talking about I, myself, and me, the conversation of corruption will never end.
Okay, well, like you rightfully put it, we all wait to see what will happen. This, even as the conversation is still ongoing in regards to the same fresh, stuff coming up, or fresh evidence coming up and talks coming up in regards to the same involvement of the PS, that is Mochache, in regards to this particular issue, the tenders, and the monies, and where, of course, some of these PPEs were taken, is, something that has raised lots of concerns and reports, not so good. But yes, this is in the hands of the right people. We can only hope to get answers. Still on the front page, Kenya's shining star wows the world, and humanitarian Uma Omar has done well. I think this is a story that has been captured on page 10 of the Standard newspaper. You can always grab a copy and you get to enjoy what it is that she has done. But that aside, fresh push to reward talent over top grades. That's an interesting conversation right here. And this in regards to, the system of education, and also what we've been talking about, the incorporation or the coming in of the competence curriculum and the competence-based curriculum. And the talk of the town is that for the longest of time, our education system has been about awarding our students papers as opposed to ensuring that they come out of school with skills. So there's this fresh push to ensure that talent is rewarded more, instead of, talking about the top grades, because they only remain as grades. And when you take a look at talent, a majority of people, a majority of youths now being called upon to tap into their talents and to make the best of their talents so that they can earn a living. And typically that is what the world is turning to as it stands. What do you make of this now that you're a person who deals with students so much? We lost all right, yes.
Many of us are living. So many of us are a product of our skills, not actually what we went to do at the university or what we learned in school.
Yeah.
For example, the thing that too, I didn't study talking. I remember I was really a very good speaker, but I went to do a course on Bachelor of Commerce. So you realize what I do today is not very much on the Bachelor of Commerce, but on talking and talking experience and things that I have achieved and I've been able to learn through the course of my life. So I agree with the competency-based curriculum. Let's not be able to judge students on their ability to remember and to be able to cram things, but let's reward them based on their skills. Because when you have skills on board, then you'll build a healthy and powerful nation. But if you decide to sit on the other end and judge people on their cramming ability, I think you might lose them on their ability. Linda.
All right. Well, that's an interesting view right there. So we hope to see that, well, even as we incorporate this, yes, grades or good grades will not be rooted out 100%, but importantly, it will be for the best of our students. Just coming to page 2, to a story that we have touched already, Treasury bill, the rich to buy posh vehicles as the poor skipped meals. We have weighed into the same. And coming to page 3, how virus gave dyeing factories a lifetime after years of losses. And this also as different factories that were working on fabrics and were working on clothes right here for the longest of time had been out of the market, but then coming in of the virus, of course, at this time that there's that need of having masks, then of course these factories are thriving and doing good. And Kenya among countries to benefit from fast 300 COVID-19 vaccines. What do you make of these? I mean, the world has eagerly waited for a vaccine, and now that Russia says that it is likely to, have this vaccine that is going to work, numerous countries coming on board to order their vaccines, and now Kenya among the countries to benefit from fast 300 COVID-19 vaccine. A good move, a good thing. I mean, sigh of relief or hope for us or the global fraternity as we deal with COVID-19?
I really pray that this vaccine works on us. I think previously the conversation was that they were trying the vaccine on Africans. My hope and prayer is that this vaccine really works and it's not coming to be tested here in Africa and here in Kenya. I pray that it will be able to also help us bring back normalcy, because the new normal, in as much as we are trying to adapt, there is a lot of things that are not very functional. So I pray that it works, and at least we are now able to do such newspaper reviews when we are in the studio.
Yeah, I agree. But anyway, the ministry records decline in corona cases by 3.4%. In a story that we've also touched on, it says also people should not relax, saying that, well, maybe we hit the peak and now we are coming down. It is too early to declare that. And that aside, some bit of talk on matters politics on the stalemate, like we had weighed in on the same page 6 and 7, says Ruto Raila false state of arrest of senators. We've touched on that. Who wants what in the cash row? Some more revelations in regards to what could be causing this stalemate that is ongoing as it stands off. Integrity, public good missing in standoff over sharing revenue. This is according to Right Honorable Raila Odinga. And how plot to force formula backfired, and also we get to see more in regards to this, so you can grab your copy and get to see what is this that has been extensively expounded on the same. An agency to chart varsity pathway for dropouts, that's also an interesting one. That is Q, that is a commission for university education right here in the country. Let's drop what is of course on the Standard newspaper and cross over to the Daily Nation. And the front page of the Daily Nation, Ruto Raila criticized a state of arrest. Still the same conversation or the same story that is on the front page of the Standard newspaper. And according to Deputy President William Ruto, it says abuse of police to bully citizens, threaten and intimidate leaders is wrong. It is not it's not the reason millions woke up early to vote for us as leaders now. And Raila Odinga says the state needs to pull back and abandon actions that take away the gains made on our path to democratization. And there you go, a different story right here. Studying abroad, your qualifications will be matched against Kenyan standards. Whoa, that should be a good news, or that should be good news, because in most cases, African countries have argued, or African people travel to abroad and they're forced to go back to class so they can meet the standards of this international scene. Another story, counties near Nairobi are new COVID-19 hotspots. And I think this is a case that we've seen, a trend that we've seen. Kiambu County now the hotspot, taking up number 2 from Mombasa. And the biggest fear is that also the likes of Machakos and Kajiado are going to face it rough. What do you make of this?
Yes, we've seen other hotspots coming up, and I think the conversation should be, we need to be safe. We need to keep safe. I think with the reduction of the number.
Sorry?
Hello, can you hear me?
I lost you, yeah?
Saying with the reduction of the number of COVID-19 cases, I think there is a lot of laxity, and people are not taking these very serious. And I think we need to ensure that we don't create more hotspots. I think Nairobi took it first. Now, for the other counties, we need not be able to get there. We should not get there. Let's continue observing on the guidelines that have been given to us by the Ministry of Health, so that we don't continue this conversation where now we have new hotspots here, we have new hotspots in the counties, let's keep safe. In as much as the reduction of the number of cases is being experienced, and I think we need to keep safe.
All right, and speaking of which, also this story that has been captured on page 7 says that Nairobi metropolitan area, the new COVID-19 epicenter. Well, this in regards to the numbers that have been projected so far. And the number of COVID-19 cases in Nairobi stand at 17,889. And this is pretty much unfortunate numbers. In Kajiado, 1,627, and Machakos, 1,088, different from that one of Kiambu that I have mentioned, has taken the center stage of being amongst the top ones. Mugatana wants fraud case settled out of court. And just a week or two ago, we saw the arrest of former Garsen Member of Parliament, that is Danson Mugatana, who now seeks to have this conversation or this case be settled out of court. That's pretty much unfortunate. In most cases, I don't know, this is not the first time that he lands himself in this, and most of our leaders too. Why is it that fraud is quite much thriving in the country, and you know this is actually being conducted by the leaders who are supposed to stop and shun this?
Again, I think the problem we have in this country, Linda, is leadership. And I look forward actually to a time when leadership would be taught so that we don't get to argue over certain things. You know, sometimes you look at these things and you really get to, you're angry, you know, your feelings, because you realize there's a better way to handle things. But when you look at how things are really handled, you know, it baffles you and it makes you really feel bad about it. So I think this falls to leadership, and if you're able to set good leadership examples in the country, I don't think we should be talking about this. We shouldn't be in this conversation again, having the same person in the same message again.
All right, and that aside, radicalization and terrorism is finding its way back. There's a story that has been captured on page 10 of the Daily Nation, speaking of how much, you know, Kenya and Somalia have been out here, you know, fighting at that point of the border because of the aspect of Al-Shabaab's and kidnapping that sparked war. And this is a story that has been captured. Say, before 2011, Kiwayu was an idyllic tourist spot hailed in magazines as one of the best in the world. Things changed dramatically when the T-boats arrived, and all this talk of kidnappings and all this talk of some of the people in Kenya sort of going missing and disappearing for ages. I think you know very well that even the Cuban doctors disappeared, and you know this was something that's pretty much unfortunate. Also, in Mombasa, there is a mosque that is Masjid Musa. How Bing Mosque became face of radicalization in Mombasa, that this mosque, instead of serving the purpose of people going there to worship Allah, it is serving the contrary, or it's contrary, because then you find that lots of radicalization activities are taking shape in this particular area. And why is it that our youths, or why do you suppose youths are so prone and, you know, vulnerable to these acts of radicalization, that they get into this? What could be informing this, aside from the fact that, yes, there's lack of employment and poverty?
I think the youth have not been empowered enough. In as much as we talk about the opportunities that have been given to them, are they even real opportunities? So youth, I think we should come to a point and agree that these guys, we do not empower them. We do not have a future for our country. So when we look at the youth, you know, we should see our tomorrow. We should see people who can be able to carry the conversation of development and growth of our country forward. I think the reason why they are radicalized is because do you even know how much potential these people carry? Do you even know that if we empower the youth, we've empowered the whole generation? So the conversation is, I think we do not really engage the youth also enough, because when we are setting so many things for the youth, we don't even involve them. So the conversation is not really centered on the people who really matter.
All right, and let's drop that one as we keep this conversation right close to our hearts, because that will come in handy to change so much. And we take a look at the People Daily, and the biggest story: Michelle rallies the U.S. against a Trump rule. Former First Lady urges voters to turn out in large numbers and send home President Trump, who she said only succeeded in dividing the nation. What do you make of her statement yesterday? Got very many people, surprised, but yes, she said it.
Now, her statement really, I don't know, it hits Trump in such an odd way, but I think when you look at what is coming, the elections in November, everyone feels like anything being said is a threat to them. I think Donald Trump didn't take it very lightly because I think Michelle is supporting Joe to get into that seat in November. So I think it's a threat to Donald Trump feels threatened. And, sometimes when you're in power, getting to hear people threaten your position and say all these things, you don't take them lightly because loss of power is a bit painful. Ask those who've lost it and they will tell you. So I think it must have come very wrongly for him.
Okay, well, that's in the U.S. We wait to see how this will play out. Amid talks of COVID-19, they still say or maintain that they are going to have the election anyway. So as we proceed, outrage over police brutality. I think we've touched on this particular story, and also on this story where artisans are to get degrees and diplomas. That's an interesting story that we've captured on matters making the best of talent equally, as captured on page 13. And coming to page 2, experts warn minutes of a lift could leave you dead. So nicotine pouch lift is the latest among the youth or the young ones. Industry players warn the dangers that the 20 sachet carries are lifelong, problem. And medical experts and anti-tobacco lobby groups are asking the government to ban lift, a nicotine product sold across the counter and which is being used by the youth and children. And first of all, at this time of COVID-19, these are the reports that are coming on board that actually youth are, abusing drugs even more. And as much as there's that ban on sale of alcohol in restaurants and all these places, they still are enjoying the drink while at home. And now this also lift is one, I don't know which one exactly, I've not had a chance to get a hold of it or even say it, but it's pretty much unfortunate and speaks volumes of how much our students, our children are abusing drugs.
Yes, Linda. I don't think banning the sale of alcohol was the real deal for solving problems during this time of the pandemic. I think we've said here again, this should have been addressed differently, and this goes back to the years these students are in school. Are we preparing them enough so that when such a thing happens and we are not able to monitor them as teachers, we are not able to monitor them, parents where they are at home, are they able to keep them in check? Secondly, you realize some of these students are using drugs because they are lacking love at home. They went home and they thought parents would embrace them, but unfortunately these parents are so hard on them, and some of them even turn into drug abuse as a way of trying to get relevant and to feel loved. So are we able to prepare these students enough, even when they're in school, so that when they go home, whether they're being monitored by the teachers or not, when they're with their parents, they're not doing the wrong things? Because let me tell you, Linda, those statistics are really true. There's a lot of drug abuse happening out here, and they actually do not fear. You even see some of them updating their status, and they're very happy about it. So the conversation is in mentorship and in training these students while they're in school, so that they're able to keep off from such things.
Okay, well, and there's an interesting piece right here on page 9 of the People Daily in regards to COVID-19 and so Mombasa lobby seeks compensation. That is a lobby group that seeks compensation for residents of Old Town, and they say they want to be reimbursed for the losses they claim were incurred during the lockdown period. It's a very interesting piece. They also want the government to ensure that they deal with the losses that they incurred at this particular time when they were locked down or they were declared a coronavirus epicenter. What do you make of this? Is it necessary, and would it not not take now the entire country to that point where, yes, they'll claim this from the government? And what does it speak about preparation in terms of cushioning people across the country as we deal with COVID-19?
Well, in as much as we might try to look at the government and try to read the myth, I think this pandemic hit so many countries in the world, and it was not very well prepared for. So I don't think it is right for one person to go and demand that the government, compensates them, because when you begin the conversation of compensation, the whole world, I think we've been inconvenienced in different ways. Even in what, as a company we do, we've been inconvenienced because we do a lot of things in schools and colleges. So we cannot go now to the government and tell them to compensate us. However, with the conversation of being able to help people and cover them in such situations, I think it should be addressed very well, so that at least I've seen in other countries, people are able to have access to basic needs. Sometimes even the rent, the government in other places would say, let people not pay all the amounts, or maybe let them pay half, so that they are cushioned against such uncertainties. But I think here in Kenya, we've not had so much of that going on. It's been, do your thing, and the little that has been distributed to the poor and the less fortunate. But you realize when you go to the ground, not everyone was able to access these. So there are people who have equally been able to be cushioned, but others have been left out, and the conversation should be in better strategies in the future.
All right. Well, that aside, let's cross over to the cartoon edition of all these sessions as we get to wind up. It's more about the Senate on the People Daily. Yes, governors are right there as the goalkeepers, and the Senate are out here trying to debate on how best they can address the stalemate, the revenue share stalemate, 8 shots off target and still counting. Well, I think, is there much to say about this cartoon edition?
Yeah, I think there's something to say. Can we try to look at this not to be a competition between the senators? I think to score, then it goes, the ball goes different direction. Seems like it's really a competition. It shouldn't be a competition. It should be, these people coming together and agreeing this is what is best for the common man, and this is what is best for the whole country. I think when we begin it at there, we will win.
All right, and still more or less the same thing. Also on the Daily Nation, Senate will not be cowed. As you can see, President Uhuru Kenyatta sort of standing right there in front of the mirror, and all these voices coming from the Senate that, what, we will not be cowed, we will not be pushed to address something that we do not seek to address, or what we think is not right for our people. So, and I don't know, this is a little bit tricky, that when I'm not able to get it very clear, the butchery of Bujumbura under new management still not quite clear, so I'm afraid we might be able to take a look at the cartoon edition on the Standard newspaper. But I guess I have to say asante sana on that very note as we get to wind up on this session of the newspaper review. That's more like it on what is on the newspaper, and we cross over to a different conversation altogether. Sky Vikan, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Linda.
Lovely day as we cross over to the next segment. After this break, we'll have so much, so keep it TV 47.